Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to all of you here in the room. Thank you for being here and Happy New Year 2023. Here we are. Let's take some time to just sit. We'll do about a 10-minute quiet, centered, breath-filled time. So, step one, get comfortable. Feel the floor underneath you. And rest there. Really fully let gravity take you down and in to this place wherever you are, and feel yourself landing. Once you've established a comfortable, grounded, stable place for your body, bring your mind to your breath. And allow the next inhale to be the one that you focus on, the only one that matters. And then let the exhale be the next and only one that matters. So in this physical space, you are attuning and aligning with the energetic space that is defined by your experience of your breath and the vitality that it brings to your system. And your only job here is to keep noticing each time there's a palpable breath for you to align with. Your only job is to keep noticing, not to notice all of them, but to notice the one that's here right now. Doesn't matter if your eyes are closed or all the way open or just slightly open, wherever they're comfortable and you feel safe. It doesn't matter the position that you've arranged your body, as long as you have an alert, lengthened spine. And it doesn't matter how many extra thoughts find their way in. It just matters the very next time you notice the inhale and the exhale. You'll notice your mind wandering because that's what it's meant to do. Always scanning for either threat or opportunity or potential danger. And so we can quickly right it. We can quickly come back as soon as the moment that we notice arrives. Knowing we haven't done it wrong, we've done it right because we noticed. Return to the breath. See what this next breath brings. Be there for it. Perhaps rejoice in it. Have amazement for it. Be humbled in its presence. Be lifted by its power. At a minimum, just notice. Take 3 more conscious breaths in and out. When you're ready, just gently flutter your eyes open, softly letting in the light of the room and your surroundings as you return. So before we started this recording, some of us in the room were talking about the early pandemic yoga videos, and I was actually thinking about that today, preparing my talk for tonight. Recently, I was going through old videos and photos in my phone, and I found a bunch of of false starts for yoga videos, like between me and a few other of the yoga teachers here in our studio, sharing videos and just trying to figure out how to do this thing that we hadn't done before. And it would make a hilarious blooper reel. It was a whole lot of laughing and whoa, and no, okay, stop. And there's something about a false start that on one hand is funny, and when we're not giving too much importance to it. But on another hand, it's sort of like it really rings true that that we weren't present. There's something about a false start that means we weren't really all there, ready to do the thing that we were intending to do. It's like there's a distraction that happens, a true distraction. A lot of us in the beginning of the pandemic learning to make yoga videos were really distracted and self-conscious, like worried about, would the video capture a misspeak? Would we, if we fumbled the words or said arm when we meant leg, or said hip when we meant lip, or said left when we meant right, all of these things that just blow by a normal yoga class, no big deal, nobody's going to remember it. But somehow if it's recorded for posterity, then the stakes are so much higher. There was concern about our some imperfection or wrongness in our cues. What if a more experienced yoga teacher saw the video and said, no, that's not right? There was a somewhat valid concern about, like, well, what are you supposed to wear in a yoga video? Are we going to look right? Are we going to blend into the background? And what's the background like? And I was so worried all the time about whether my dog was going to make an appearance. And those of you who were around from the beginning know that he made many appearances, and he was vocal and annoying and cute and silly. And in the end, none of that mattered. So I think that there was this expectation that everything was supposed to be perfectly aligned, as if we were doing some sort of performance, rather than being in a place of yoga and bringing the community into presence. And it really called for a pause, something ironically that we all had to relearn, so that the false starts didn't happen so often. I Googled false start today, I'll admit it. And I found something really interesting. It's a series of lithographs by the modern artist Jasper Johns. They're called False Start 1 and 2. I think there's only 2. And it's this really interesting interplay between the visual and the linguistic. So what he did was had a bunch of splotches of color and then words for color laid on top. But the words for the colors weren't on top of the actual colors that they were symbolizing. So there would be a yellow splotch and the word blue right on top of it. And he called this false start. False start number 1 had all the colors and the names for the colors. False start number 2 is the same exact print, but it's all black and white. So there's all these words for colors, but no color at all, just black, white, and shades of gray. It suggested to me, and this is my own personal interpretation, a world beyond words, where the invitation is to see the shape of the words, but to linger there and to contemplate the deeper meanings of things beyond their surface appearance. So the word blue only means what it means to an English speaker who has that association. And so often it's a false start to assume that we understand something based on its surface appearance. We can't know each other ever just by looking at appearance. And even so quickly, we might realize that what we assumed about someone is different the moment they start speaking. And then the words they're saying take us to another layer of understanding, another layer of knowing. So these assumptions are false starts. We make false starts when we look way down the road and miss the guides that allow us to take those first careful steps. When we're worried about something turning out a certain way, or when we're making assumptions about a person being a certain kind, we miss those first steps into true knowing, into stable presence, into presence that is filled with openness, and maybe with that openness, acceptance, and maybe with that acceptance, compassion, and maybe with that compassion, love, kindness, and skillful partnership in humanity, whatever that means in any given moment. Another thing came up in my Googling false start, which of course it's a common penalty in football. I don't know that much about football. I know it's very violent, as we all now. If we didn't know that before, we know that this week in a really painful way. But in football, a false start is when the offensive team moves before the center puts the ball in motion, right? And so there's actually a funny compilation of false start false start penalty calls by referees on YouTube, and it's when the whole offensive line moves except for the one with the ball, the center, and it's the referee saying false start called on everyone but the center. And there's like a whole bunch of those, and it's funny when you look at it, and it was just an interesting play on the word center for me, because I thought, let's be like the center. Let's wait and be mindful about the way we put things in motion. And if we are like the center, then we can be more centered and have fewer false starts. And take everything into stock that is right now. As I suggested earlier, just this breath, right in this moment. Not everything that came before, not any of what we think might come later, but just centered right now before we put whatever ball in motion we need to. I remember being on a really rigorous hike with a friend, and we were going up, 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 up. And I was like, look how far we have to go. And she said, don't look up. Don't look at the top. You can't get to the top with your next step. You can only get right there with your next step. It's just one step. All we're ever doing is taking one step, one breath, one moment at a time. I find this incredibly reassuring and incredibly hard to forget. So let's practice with that now. Being like the center, centered. In the physical form, because that's what we have right now, that gives us the tools to operate our being in the world. And deep in the center of this machine that is a body and a brain can be found an energetic presence that only ever exists in the moment, because it's always changing. So let's find our way there if we can. It's just a breath and a thought away. All we have to do is notice the very next breath to take that energetic next step. Nothing else matters. Don't be disappointed if you find yourself in presence for the next breath and you realized you missed the previous 10 or 50. That wasn't wrong. You're here now. When this moment is alive and real for you. Just a few more opportunities to be present for the moment's inhale and the next moment's exhale. And then gently return to present moment awareness in your surroundings. I read a quote by Jasper Johns, the artist, and he said, to be an artist, you have to give up everything, including the desire to be a great artist. And It's that desire that he wisely flagged. It's a bit of a demon emotion. Certainly was flagged by the ancient yogis and the Buddha as a prime driver of suffering. Desire tells us this lie that if we get that thing, then we'll be happy. Because it's a lie, because it's never enough. Because happiness doesn't come from a thing that was gotten from an external source. This lie that says things can be as we want them to be, and that our work here in this life is to manifest our desires and dress up our world in exactly the outfits that we choose. It just doesn't work. Even when it seems to work temporarily, it just leaves us wanting more, searching for the next outfit, not even enjoying the one we have. You know, lately the concept of the New Year's resolution has gotten a bit of a makeover, and I'm really glad for it, because the previous incarnation of a New Year's resolution had this implicit message that we weren't right before, that we needed to fix something. You know, so often it came in the form of losing weight. And that's just such a red herring for happiness and even for health itself. This implicit desire to be something that we're not. And you know, if the desire is to be in good health, that's another thing. It so often was not phrased that way. And so often, whatever the resolution was, I'm going to be better at XYZ, it ended up as a false start. And we know this. So the evolved New Year's resolution is now more like, often you'll hear it said as an intention or as a reflection. And I think that is such it's a friendlier and it's a wiser way of approaching the new year. The new year is a really good opportunity to be aware of what constitutes a true start. Nothing that's dictated by appearance or competition or low self-regard or even by the calendar. You know, I like to think of it as a true start, to see that every single moment is a new year. There's always 365 days ahead of us. And however you slice those up, those days into months or weeks or hours or breaths or moments, that's always ahead. And having these opportunities ahead of us is like seeing this beautiful hill that you're hiking, but seeing it not for some goal to achieve when you get to the top, but for seeing it as something that offers one mindful step at a time. So for a true start to the year, that's the invitation that I'm feeling called to accept, is just take it slow. Just be here for the next breath. That's all that's ever being asked of us. And whatever is more broadly being asked of us, to, you know, complete assignments and figure out life and do a job and care for a family and be there for friends, none of those things happen well when we're not doing that one breath at a time, that one step at a time, that those moments of mindful presence. So we'll do one more bit of time sitting, breathing, contemplating our true start, every breath that comes. The next breath that arrives, honor it, celebrate it, be there for it. Give it salutations. And when it turns to an exhale, send it off with love, gratitude, humility. For these last few minutes, I'll offer a poem. This is called Start Close In by David White. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing, close in. The step you don't want to take. Start with the ground, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way to begin the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. To hear another's voice, follow your own voice. Wait until that voice becomes an intimate, private ear that can really listen to another. Start right now. Take a small step you can call your own. Don't follow someone else's heroics. Be humble and focused. Start close in. Don't mistake that other for your own. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing, close in, the step you don't want to take. So gather your awareness for your very next inhale. Let it fall to an exhale. from wherever you are, just gently, if you're feeling the distance between your heart and your chin, let your chin drop toward your heart and let your heart slide a little toward your chin. Flutter your eyes open if they've been closed. Return your awareness to your immediate surroundings. And come back and bring your palms together in front of your heart. And may we all find a true start to the year and to all of the moments that comprise a year. Thank you so much for joining me.